Okay, the video that they showed there was the easiest types for doing substitution. Whenever you got two equations,
yeah, you said it was the hardest.
the ones they showed on the video was the easiest types of substitution. You have two equations. If one of your equations has a letter by itself, substitution is the easiest way to solve them, like the ones we saw in the video. Unfortunately, most of the ones we do don't have a letter by themselves. Okay, so I'm just going to point this out. Most of them aren't that tough, but when you're doing these, if you have a choice of solving them, if this came up like this, substitution wouldn't be the way you choose to do it. The next way we learn elimination would be. Usually the only time you choose to do substitution is if it was something like this, because it's all set up for you. Now, the substitution part is once you get a letter by itself, you take what it's equal to and substitute it in for that letter in the other one. Because since y equals 6x, they're interchangeable. They're the same thing. So that means I could put 6x in place of every y that I see. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then you're going to want to rewrite this one. It'd be 2x plus 3. And instead of y, I got to put a 6x there. I'm replacing that y with 6x. Equals 6. And then you solve it. 3 times 6x is 18x plus 6. That's a real odd one I came up with. So I get 20x equals, let me change this to a 60 and then it comes out even. So then when I divide by 20, x is 3. Now a lot of times people go through all that work and they forget to find y. Now that I know what x is, I can find y.
Y equals 6x.
So what I do is, since x is 3, put a 3 in for the x. 18. So you can write it this way, or you could write it as a coordinate. Remember, that's how we just did it there. If you write it this way, 318, that represents the first number is x, the second number is y. Okay? So again, anytime they start off with the letter by itself, substitution is actually the quickest way. But, like here, they don't have a letter by itself. But this one isn't so bad, because I can get this x by itself pretty easy. I just got to move this over, right? So then it would become x equals -1 minus 3y. So, now that I got the x by itself, you take what it's equal to and substitute it into the other equation for which letter? X. So I got to put this in place of that one right there. So now the next part is sometimes people don't know what to do then. You got to write the equation down. I've got a 2, and now instead of an x, I'm replacing it with -1 minus 3y. Take away 5y equals -13.
Wait, why do you have to put the 1 in there? Why can't you just put 3y, -1?
Because x is equal to -1 minus 3y.
But couldn't you have solved it?
No. See, because when I get the x by itself, I got to move this over to the other side.
So you have to make 1.
She's just tired.
So,
We're always
yep, there's two things now that you know, the other one that was just, it was one term. Here, there's 2 terms now. The reason why you do that is now you have an equation where there's just a letter y in it. And anytime you got an equation with one letter in it, and when I say one, even though there's 2 of them, it's just listed once, you can solve it. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6y. Minus 5y equals negative 13. You can combine those two. They're on the same side, so remember you don't do the opposite. That is negative 11y. So, now you just get the y by itself. Add 2. And then divide by negative 11. And you get y is 1. So, now that I know that y is 1, you can substitute it into any one of these equations for y and figure out what x is. This is always the easiest one to put it back into, the one where the letter is by itself. If I put a 1 in there, then it says x equals negative 1 minus 3 times 1, which is negative 1, 3 times 1 is 3. What's negative 1 take away 3?
4.
Negative 4. Okay? And this one, you got an option. You could get either one of these x's by itself. Since this has a 0, this would be the easiest one to do. So you just move this over, and it turns to x equals 2y plus 0, which is just 2y. So now it's a lot easier when there's just one thing that it's equal to. So what you got to do is put the 2y in for the x in the other equation, rewrite it, so 2y goes there, and then you solve it. 2y minus 8y is negative 6y. Then we divide by negative 6, and we get a fraction. 5/6. So, in order to figure out what x is, put 5/6 in right there. So x equals 2 times 5/6, which you can cross cancel. That'd be 1 over 3. So x equals 5/3. Okay? Here, which letter would you want to get by itself? The y. You always want to choose something that doesn't have a constant in front. It's just going to save you time. So what I'd have to do is move this over here. Now remember, that's going to stay negative y. This changes to negative 7x, and that's just a positive 12. So you still have a negative, which means you got to change all the signs. Okay, change the sign, change the sign, change the sign. So I want to put this in the other equation for the y. Replace the y with that. So when I rewrite it, I get 4x plus 2, and in place of the y, I've got to put 7x minus 12 equals 10. And then you solve it. 2 times 7x is 14x. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. You can combine the x's. Oops, 10. So I've got to add 24 and get another odd fraction. Divide by 18, and I get 34/18, which would reduce to 17/9. So then I got to plug that in right there. Some of these you do get odd fractions for your answers. So to figure out what y is going to equal 7 times x, which is 17/9, minus 12. So if you got a fraction calculator, it's going to be a lot quicker. If you don't, geez, I'm missing a lot of calculators again. I got to take top times top. 119/9 minus, so I want this to be a 9 on the bottom, so take the top times 9, it would be 108/9. Ever understand what I did there? Because it's 12 over 1, so take the top and the bottom times 9, and I chose 9 because I want a common denominator. So then you just have to subtract the tops. 119 minus 108 is 11/9. So like I said, we're just going to do the ones today where there already is a letter by itself, so you don't have to move anything yet. And then tomorrow we're going to do a few of these where you got to get a letter by itself. So here the y is by itself. So you just got to put x minus 1 in place of the y in the other equation. So you got to rewrite it. In place of the y, I put an x minus 1. And then you solve it. X, negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. So I can combine these two. X minus 5x is negative 4x. So subtract 5. Divide by negative 4. And I get 5 for my x. Once I have that, just put this in to that equation. It's always the easiest to put it in the one that you substitute, use the substitute. So if I put a 5 in there, 5 minus 1 is 4. So y is 4. Okay? Everyone got an idea? Okay, we'll do a few on the assignment.